Media Day over at One Bills Drive as we are just 2 days away from the NFL Draft, and yesterday began Phase 1 of the Bills offseason program. Of those who spoke today, one of which was cornerback Trey White, who spoke on re-signing with the Bills, but also was not shy about talking highly with fellow cornerback Christian Benford.
Legit, genuinely proud and so happy for him. But be a 6th-round pick, you fighting the odds. You come in with a 1st-round pick in the same draft too. To be able to go through all that, come out the way he's come out, and continue to get better and better, the sky's the limit for him.
GM Brandon Beane also spoke with the media around 45 minutes. He did confirm running back James Cook not in town for the start of voluntary workouts. He did, though, want to squash any rumors on why the running back may not be in Buffalo.
We could all assume he's not here because he's unhappy with his contract or whatever, but that's not fair. He hasn't told me that.
Bills quarterback Josh Allen also among those who spoke today, and we'll get more on all of this when Sal Capaccio joins the show at 4 p.m. Plenty of playoff action today. 4 games in the NHL. We'll start early at 6. Carolina hosts New Jersey. 7:30 sees Ottawa in Toronto versus the Maple Leafs. 8:30, the last of the playoff series will finally get underway with Tampa hosting Florida. And then for all you Night Owls, 11 p.m. sees Minnesota in Las Vegas versus the Golden Knights. But we also got some news for teams that did not make the playoffs. The Islanders announced today that the contract for Lou Lamoriello as president and GM would not be renewed. Then in the NBA, 3 games tonight, starting at 7. It'll be Indiana hosting Milwaukee. 7:30, Memphis trying to bounce back from that 51-point loss in Game 1 to OKC. They'll be on the road. And then at 10, the Timberwolves will look to take both games in LA versus the Lakers. And then in baseball, the Bisons are at home tonight, taking on the Red Wings just after 6. That game will be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I gotta wonder what kind of working relationship he'd have with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp.
I've often wondered that. Like, he, they, I don't know what his pronouns are, or their pronoun. Anyway, Satan.
And the Bulldog.
What's the upside of doing well? Well, maybe they're too busy making everyone else's life hell.
Oh, boy.
And wow. you might just be able to do your own thing if you're partnered with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They're too busy, making Scott Norwood miss field goals.
Oh, come on.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Was I being unfair to Olive Loaf just now?
Well, I don't know what. I'm not one to judge.
I like Olive Loaf. I should not be called out for being unfair to it.
If you're going to criticize it, I'm going to respect it.
I said
that's your realm. You are when I was Lord of the Olive Loaf,
finally ready to eat.
Lord most Olive Loaf.
That's what I got to. Which maybe seems like a weird choice when you've been sick and you're just like,
yeah,
all right, I feel like I might be hungry now, so I made an olive loaf sandwich.
Yeah, I don't agree with that as a tactic.
Well, that's some are saying like that's how you get sick. That's not how you get better.
Right.
Which I don't think is fair to Olive Loaf. I'm not sure it's any. What? Let's see. So Brandon Beane said it's not fair to assume James Cook's absence is contract related. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Is that for real?
So do you think it's not fair that we're judging Olive Loaf as though it has not helped you feel better?
I just wanted to get.
I'm not trying to connect.
I wanted to get to the Bean thing.
I don't need to connect these things.
It's really not fair because he said Cook didn't tell him that was the reason. So, I mean, it might be.
It might be, sure, but it might not be. I mean. I wouldn't want to assume, but
I think I do.
There's some chance that that's the reason why. I'm having a bigger problem comprehending that Josh Allen did not know Tre'Davious White was back on the Bills until he walked in the locker room today.
What's going on over there?
Than I am with anything Beane said that's vague or just sort of deflecting about James Cook. I respect you if you are out of the social media game and like fully, you've deleted it all. You're trying to be more, what do you say, more intentional with my time. Mad respect. I went to dinner Friday. I left my house at around whatever time we got done. I went out to a dinner party at my friend's house. Was there until about 11 o'clock. Didn't have my phone the whole time. I got home from work and plugged it in thinking I'm going to charge this for a minute and then grab it on the way out the door, and I forgot it. And guess what? Nothing happened on Friday night that I needed my phone for, which was, convenient, but it was also kind of nice to not, because I would have probably looked at my phone 10 times in the 4 hours that we were at my friend's house. And instead, I'm sure I was engaging in scintillating conversationalist because I didn't have my phone. But
I'm sure your friends were like, what's different about Chris?
Yeah, he's talking to us.
He's actually looking at me when he's talking.
He's not
What is different?
Texting someone while pretending to be paying attention to what I'm saying to him.
Did he shave? Is it something about his face or his appearance?
So if you're foregoing that, hat tip. Seriously, with all sincerity.
Put the phone down.
But how in the world does somebody on the team, one of his friends on the team, not text him? It was Thursday evening that happened. How in the world does the quarterback of the team not get 10, 20, 5 text messages from someone on the team like, hey, Tre'Davious White is back? So I had a little mental gymnastics with that because I can't. I mean,
do you believe him?
I guess I'm saying I find it hard to believe. Is that? Do I escape calling him a liar?
No, not this again.
I don't know what I'm doing here, but I just can't believe he didn't know that Tre'Davious White was back on the team. But okay.
It could be just sort of like a little fabrication because it's kind of cute.
And a way to brag that you're not on social media anymore.
Maybe.
Humble brag.
Now you're getting a little cynical, but, maybe. I don't know. It's not serious enough for me. Like there are these where I really want to just stare at it until I feel like I know the answer. This is not one of those things.
Okay.
I can understand, questioning it. Yeah. It's not fair to assume Cook's absence is contract related. You're not supposed to assume in life. That is one of the first things you'll learn, right? Never assume. Sometimes maybe you can. I'm not sure it's always such a bad thing.
Yeah.
Well, the draft is this much closer. Thursday night. I wrote some names down. Do you think you could make a list of names where you'd be like, fine or better?
Sure. Yeah, I think I might even like the exercise of putting 5 names down and saying, like, the pick is going to be one of these 5 guys.
Okay, let's do that.
I don't, I have no idea if that would end up being, how close that'll get, but I feel like there's reason to think that some guys on this list will be there, and if they are, they are picks that have been attached to the Bills. So, yeah, I think I could do that. I think I would start with Trey Amos, a player I think is pretty likely to be there. I rarely see him picked before 30. Usually, when I'm looking at mock drafts, if he's in the first round, it's the Bills. And so I'm comfortable feeling like, if the mock drafts are any of them are close to accurate, and who knows? I've said a few times that probably not. There's going to be guys that are picked way earlier and maybe way later than what consensus looks like. But I feel like Amos is a guy that I feel right now, knowing as much as we know, which is all I feel like I can know, Trey Amos will be there, and so that's a reasonable idea for them at 30.
Okay.
You want to go next?
Sure. Nolan, I think I would pick next.
Walter Nolan.
Tackle with their first round pick. I think I'd pick
Walter
Nolan. And
tackle
your
with
point
their first round
about
pick.
his
Walter Nolan.
Most of the time not being picked, or at least some of the time. Grant might be someone they would want more,
but he's often
available less often.
Yes.
In mock drafts. So I would think, you could pick both of them. Position of need. All you need is one. If you're trying to, it's basically the golf bet, right? We're trying to pick the winner from 5 names.
I think I would want to put both of them on the list.
Yeah.
I think it's less likely that Grant is there. I'm not real optimistic about either of them being there at this point because of the point there is about, yes, there's depth, there's a lot of guys, but Saturday, I think, and even maybe early Friday, becomes guys that are not as versatile at getting upfield and making plays in the backfield, getting to the quarterback, that kind of thing. And Grant doesn't really have that in his arsenal yet, but he's young and looks athletic enough that you might think you can develop it. So I think he gets snagged before, and Nolan probably does, but just for the sake of the exercise, I feel like those two guys, maybe one of them gets there. And so I'd want to put both of them on the list.
Me too.
But I'm worried that both are going to be gone by the time they pick.
Then, could Will Johnson make it?
I highly doubt it.
Okay.
I feel like he's been, after Hunter, the first cornerback in so many drafts. So I feel like I would be really surprised if the consensus top corner through this whole process were to fall all the way to 30.
Hairston?
That could work. Siobhan Ravel's another name. I don't know if we want to go with 3 corners on this list. Maybe we could have we could each have our own list. Maybe with probably some duplicates.
Get your own list.
You want to slap a receiver in there just in case?
I so do.
Or are you not optimistic about that?
I made a list of 10.
Oh, wow.
And I have a running back on it. Just for fun.
Okay.
I have Travion Henderson on my 10 list.
Well, isn't that fun, everyone? 803-0550. Is that fun? We having fun?
Running back?
Running back at 30.
It's not going to happen. And it probably shouldn't. Emin Worry?
Unless the Cowboys trade for James Cook at the draft.
So Jerry Jones said he's working on 2 big trades.
Substantive. Yes.
Substantive.
Right. That could happen before or after the draft. So, whatever that means.
I have 2 guesses, but they're both probably too obvious. One would be Parsons, and the other would be trading up for Genty. 4 or 5 from, what are they, 10? Dallas? That's kind of a Dallas move, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The only reason I would not suspect it means a trade up on draft day is that he said they could happen before or after the draft. And if that describes both moves, obviously you're not trading up to get Genty after the draft.
That'd be tough.
That seems like a hard thing to do.
Pull off.
I wouldn't rule out trading for him after the draft. I mean, the Chargers and the Giants did that many years ago, 2004 with Eli and Phillip Rivers. But, it's not the NBA. That usually does not happen.
Emin Worry?
Sure. Put him on the list.
I'm literally making a list, by the way. If you can.
I am not. I'm already past 5 guys anyway, so I don't know. But you've got to. Maybe a better game would have been for me to try to guess your 10.
Ravel is not on my list.
Okay,
but maybe he should be.
He's probably right around there. I just don't know if the injury from September pushes him into Friday. But I feel like he's around there, and he's another one of these guys that I rarely see before 30. I'm saying it hasn't happened, but of the mock drafts I've consumed, the dozens of them, I feel like if he shows up in round 1, it's the Bills.
Okay. Malachi Starks?
Sure.
But not in the top 5?
I wouldn't put him in the top 5 myself, no.
Luther Burden?
I mean, we got to sneak a receiver in here somewhere, which I am inclined to want to do. If you haven't noticed, like I'm over here, the one raising my hand all the time, going, I don't know. I think they still need another guy, right? I've sort of become that guy here. Not that I have the market cornered on that. I'm just saying, like I'm pretty consistent. So sure, I like Matthew Golden more, but I don't know that maybe that's a one or the other thing with the way this receiver class is.
Golden is supposed to go earlier. Burden, ADP chasing today, my guys put it at 10% in round 1, which I hate. But Golden is almost always.
Yeah.
Maybe he's 90. So you have that problem. I prefer Burden. I think he has more of a ceiling. Golden's profile, speed, I know it sounds backwards, but too many comps to guys that completely busted in the league. So, and people are also questioning his time, by the way. anyway, it was great.
Yeah. There's some questions about Burden's route running now, too. There was a video. I know you were out yesterday, so I don't know how active you were while you were in recovery.
Very not active.
But I think the way I want to make sure I get this right. I think some teams asked for like practice film from Missouri of Burden running routes in practice against corners, but it's not full. It's really just one-on-ones, drill looking type stuff, and the most of the comments that I saw about that from both people who cover the draft and just fans was like, the in and out of breaks looks really bad. Like they're sending this out to teams that want to know more about Luther Burden, and this doesn't look good. This isn't complimentary to him. So that was kind of weird to me that happened. So I don't know, and I don't look. I watched it, and I guess I can see what people are referring to, but it didn't look like a smoking gun of terrible, route running or anything to me, but that was making the rounds yesterday. That they're in the process of trying to, I think, pump him up. They may have hurt him by sending out this video of these routes.
It's unfortunate.
It just didn't look good.
How about Emeka Ibuka? I hear the same thing about him from everybody. High floor, probably not going to be a bust, but there just isn't the explosiveness. There isn't the super high ceiling for him. And that's a player that can help a team. That, even in that sort of modest description, that is a player that can help a team. That's a wide receiver out of Ohio State. Maybe not in the top 5 here.
I liked reading. I read that about him too. That he's just going to be solid 10-year. Like he's going to be. He reads a little bit. When I read that, you know what I thought of? Khalil Shakir. And he's going to be picked much earlier, I think, in this draft than Khalil Shakir was. Mm-hmm. But that sounds like that. And it doesn't mean he's a slot guy exclusively or anything like Shakir mostly has become.
But he kind of is. Or has been.
Like what it just, I'm not sure that is what I'm looking for in my receiver core. I know how that sounds. Like solid 10-year career. Like you're going to be a good player. Like, maybe you should take that when you're picking at 30 or 56. But I don't know, that I want to shoot higher, I guess, than just, good workman-like receiver.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we've been all over it, for literally months with this draft pick. And the idea of receiver at 30, it's a few things. It's they have more holes on defense, it would seem. I think almost everybody would say that. It's do they feel like they need to change their offense significantly? And they did have Mac Hollins leave. They signed Palmer. Amari Cooper, too, leaves for what that's worth. What are their motives? What are their thoughts on what their offense needs to have to be different or to be better? And it's still kind of a guess whether this would even be a thing at all, whether they'd want to be any different at all offensively. You always want guys. So there's that. The sort of ironic thing about the Bills is that, as again we've said many times, they are what they've been on offense, and you could still kind of easily make an argument that it should be better, should be different. That's really a conundrum about them. How much of last year was luck? How much of last year was the takeaways and the turnovers that they didn't make themselves? And I don't know, the schedule is probably a little bit going too far, but just how much can you trust that? And I feel like you can ask that question. Mm-hmm. So as long as you can ask it, you can get to a receiver at 30. I need
another guy. Yeah, right. I need one more guy. And yeah, this Josh today, talking about how he's not on social media anymore, wearing an Everybody Eats hat, which I've not seen that before today on anyone or in the store or on a fan walking around. So I don't know.
Is that a hat you'd want?
If that's a thing that, no. I don't want to say I'm scared of Everybody Eats because it produced the results that they had last year, which were, fantastic. But yeah, I don't know, man. I still would like to develop at some point a guy that is more of a go-to guy, So when it's everything on the line time, I've got I've got a guy. I've got a guy, and I've got stuff in my hip pocket that I know is going to work. And, there's no telling what a defense is going to do that might blow it up. Like maybe they had a good idea last year on fourth down, but the Chiefs called just the right thing and blew it up on them. But still, those moments, those are the moments we're like almost to. That's not to assume that they'll always be close to or in those moments, like where they've got the ball in their hands with a minute or two to go, trying to win, trying to get a score to go to the Super Bowl. But that's what they're all about right now. And so if you boil down the game to those moments, I don't know who the go-to guy is. Their 16 touchdown running back wasn't even on the field for that series.
No. We're almost there. Are you bored with it yet? the instinct to not have the same conversations all the time. I smile. The morning guys too. Like all the different ways we've tried to frame, which is really like mostly the same question for every day for 3 months or whatever it is. I could use this thing to arrive. At this point, I don't feel well anyway. I'm sort of in a grumpy mood. I could use this thing to actually arrive soon enough. I shouldn't want to rush it because we love the draft and don't rush it. Yeah. We're at the point in the pre-draft where the prop bets come out for things like how many dogs will be shown in the first round. Mm-hmm. 2.5, by the way.
Okay.
Not including commercials.
Right. You gotta. Yeah.
This would be like Belichick's dog the one year.
Right.
The COVID year.
So how do we get dogs? I wouldn't expect there to be dogs at the draft itself in Green Bay, but
I would not.
Family gatherings, parties, there's a dog.
Dogs in living rooms.
Yep, there it is.
Mm-hmm. Like Travis Hunter, isn't he not there? Is that one of the bigger names that's...
I'm not sure. I've not. Okay. I know I looked at a list quickly of guys that were invited and confirmed to be planning to go, and I don't remember his name on it or not. Honestly,
I just lost my email. I would call it right up. You can bet on who the last player present to be drafted will be. Like Levis was when, I'm not sure he was the only guy in the room, but he might have been. So you can bet on that if you want. And I know you do. How many trades?
Well, that's what, bored yet? Do you want it to get here? I feel like today is the day that I'm for the first time seeing a few different. Matt Miller is one. And I think it's about to get pretty crazy. There's going to be. Well, he was saying that today on Twitter that there's going to be action. Teams are going to start moving around. And so I don't know if that means like today, tomorrow, and Thursday afternoon, or if that means, at 7 o'clock or 7:30 on Thursday, or when teams are on the clock even, but that there's a lot happening. And, maybe that part of me all along has thought that probably won't happen because teams are going to be, so many people might be looking to move back because of this plateau there is from, mid first round to, back end of round 2, even into round 3. So, if you believe that as an organization, why not get paid to move back? And I thought well, then who wants to move up? But because so many teams might be looking to move back, the thought is prices will be cheaper, therefore teams will be more eager to move up. They don't have to maybe if you have to pay usually a 3 or a 4 to move up a couple spots, maybe you only have to pay a 4th or a 5th. The prices are down because there's an eagerness to get out of there that is driving that market down. And so, if that happens, I'm totally here for teams shuffling around in the order.
I just want anything. So yes, I am too. You would probably say the same. It makes sense that it hasn't happened. I don't know why it would happen today. Why would a team, what would the angle be? Why is a team choosing to move up today? You need to see the board first.
Right.
And if it's true that by pick 4 or 5, that everybody's just kind of in the dark, what's going to happen next, everybody's kind of the same, all that, then I definitely want to see, how this thing starts before I make that call to whoever. You need quarterbacks for action, I think. I think you need, like we had with the Allen year or Mahomes. You need blue chip quarterbacks that teams are hot for, and they'll get in position to get those guys if they can. Without that, I think it makes sense that this year has been this way. And I don't know. I'd want to see how the draft starts before I'd be trying to make moves up. Also, I'd never be trying to make moves up. There's that, too. I would never be doing that. 803-0550 to join us. Sal Capaccio, who was out with the Bills today. Brandon Bede's comments will analyze some of that. That'll be at 4. Ross Tucker today. We asked Ross to join us once before the draft, so we'll have him at 5. Hope to hear from you. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
And I mean, we are only generally given 7. Sometimes year 7 can be hard, right, to make it. But we'll see. You know, I think that's where we have to be smart with how the board's falling. I wouldn't want to go in and say, hey, let's cash these picks in right away and move up 3 spots. You know, let's cash this 5th round in and move up 2 spots in the 2nd round or whatever that gets you when we really don't need to. And then we're sitting there later going, man, I can't believe this guy's still there.
Brandon Beane, he's got the math right. So it's, not surprisingly, maybe something he's thought about already. If he wanted to move up, as he just said in a hypothetical, 2 spots in the 2nd round, one of their 5ths would cover it by the draft tech value chart, and the chart numbers do vary. This is just the one I use every time to be consistent. So that's about what it would be, but he wouldn't do it now. He would do it when Green Bay is on the clock at 54. And, all right, now let's just not take a chance, and we don't need, quote, unquote, these picks anyway, all of them. Speaking of trade ideas, Andrew Filipponi tweets that Yahoo insider Charles Robinson, visiting on Andrew Station 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh, he mentions that the Bills are a team that could potentially trade up from 30 to 21. That's Pittsburgh. So I don't know or what he knows, if anything. Here's what that would cost. 30 to 21. You really do want to have a 3rd round pick, and they don't, because that's right in the middle of the 3rd round is the difference on this same chart between 30 and 21. How you could do it is give up your 1st, 2nd, and get Pittsburgh's 3rd. That math works. So 180 points one direction on this chart, 175 the other way. Trade 30 and 56 for 21 and 83.
I don't love that. I really like having those 2 seconds. The 3rd would buffer that, obviously. But I feel like the chance they have drafting 3 guys in the top 62, right?
Yep.
There's a chance you could get 2 starters and someone else who plays like a role, like someone who has some impact on your season. And as I say, you couldn't pull that off in the 3rd round, 2, if there is enough of a plateau there. But I really like having the 2 twos. And I don't know what, maybe 30 to 21, maybe that's Kenneth Grant, God, and I feel like he's perfect for what they really need. I just doubt that they're going to be able to get their hands on him. And so maybe if he's whatever, if he's around there, then maybe I could see them going that route. I'm just not sure that I love it. And I'm the one who's more open to moving up usually. Like I'm not exactly Les Snead over here, but I'm all right. Sticking your neck out. But I really like having those 2 seconds. I feel like if they don't, I'm not expecting them to pick a receiver at 30, and I feel like one of those seconds is where I'm getting that done. And if I got to push that down to the 3rd round, I just don't know that I'm as satisfied with what might be available to me there.
I think unless you're really in on one player, which is what that is, there's almost no reason to make that move. Well, that's obvious, right? Because that's why you're trading up. But really, what's the difference going to be between 56 and 83? Maybe not necessarily much. The way this draft sounds, I don't know. I definitely don't need to make that trade. You'd have to just be hell bent on that one guy and then just here. I think separately, hypothetically, right? Beane wasn't really telling you his plans. But the trade he mentioned is a trade I would predict they do make. I think that's an easy one. I mean, Sal's thing too, and you've said it, Beane is kind of saying, 10 picks is maybe a couple more than we really would think is ideal. So that's how you get there. And somebody will probably want to make that trade with you. I get a 5th for moving down 2 spots, fine.
Yeah.
Like if the Bills, and there probably have been years of this, if they had 5 picks in this draft, they were Minnesota. I think Minnesota has 4. if they had 5 picks in this draft and not 10, I'd be banging the table every day for that move. Just move down 3 times. Get 3 mid-round picks by doing that, and then you're back. This is kind of the opposite situation. So somebody out there should probably want to do that with them.
Right. And that's their history, Bean's history specifically. I mean, he's the one presiding over these here since 2018. That is a trade. I mean, they've made that trade in the first round for Kincaid and for Elam. They've done the opposite. James Cook was a move down twice, I think, before they ended up picking him in round 2. Small moves. So yeah, all the picks, like it's two things that have me. They're not going to use all 10 of those picks. One is their history and Bean's history of moving around like that. And I think they'll find opportunity to spend those in ways that they, at this point, might view as more useful to them than drafting someone who they think has no shot at making their team. So, he's giving you a little buyer beware there. I don't want to be flippant about it, because if, we get it wrong and there's somebody we really like and we don't have the pick because we had to move up 2 spots in round 2 or something, then you can feel a little burned. But it just has not stopped him from doing that before. And I think with 10 picks, I think they'll maybe draft 8 players this weekend. I could see them using, at a minimum, 2 of those picks to do exactly what we're talking about here.
Yep, me too. 803-0550 to talk draft. Sal Capaccio, Ross Tucker still to come today. Also on Twitter, I see from Thor Nystrom, just noticed that Ashton Genty, everybody's RB1 in this draft from Boise State, is now even money in the betting markets to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah, Jacksonville has entered the chat.
Jacksonville.
And it's been, I read, accompanying those odds, because they're 5th, I think, right?
Yes.
They're the team at 5. It's stunned if they don't use that pick on an offensive skill player, one way or the other. Whether that's a top receiver or this running back. I don't know if one of the tight ends would be in play that early. So I feel like it's more receiver or running back.
It could be Tyler Warren. I don't know. Jacksonville, we talked about them this morning too. Kirk goes, Ingram goes. Davis is still there, but coach is rattling off his receivers and doesn't even mention him.
You brought that up last week, and I saw that in tweet form today. Like, I saw a text of a recent appearance with the media where he's talking about guys, and Davis is not. He seems like maybe an afterthought to the new coach.
I like the idea of somebody trading up for Genty. Man, it's so far away from us. Like, there's no, obviously, Genty-Bill scenario. But, man, I really love it as a topic. Because at the same time, this is what makes it great. At the same time, it's the worst idea ever, Genty with a top 10 draft pick, because of everything we know about running backs. But it's awesome. At the same time, it's both. Did you compare something recently to like the 25-foot 3-point shot that no, yes.
Right.
Like,
yes.
The guy seems so exciting and good that if the Raiders, who have been irrelevant for so long, I kind of would want it if we were the Raiders, I'd kind of want it. Even though I think it's terrible.
It's not good value, but it's fun to have him on my team.
Yes, and let's just find out what it can mean. Maybe I'll have the best running back in football immediately. Like, I'm not sure that's out of the realm of possibilities with this guy. And so what can Chip Kelly do with that? If I have the best running back and the best tight end in football, perhaps, like that, the Raiders are often mocked for Genty, so we might get this. Let's just see what that can be. But man, if it isn't great, then of course.
Right.
Of course they shouldn't have drafted a running back at 6.
I just paid double. Well, the trade up idea is what I mean by that. Not if you just sit there. But still, like everything, the draft position leads to immediately an even bigger second contract when you get there. Like it all just steamrolls from there. It's no. But I know, that same logic you just, used about, it wouldn't be good value, but man, this guy's awesome to have on my team. That sort of applies to our conversation, I don't know, late last week, Thursday or Friday, about trading up, period. Like that, I just go get a guy. That's fun. Yeah, I went and got my guy. Yeah, I spent some extra stuff. I know it's not smart. It wasn't good value, but I got my guy.
That's what makes the draft so
that's
interesting.
Part of what makes it, exciting. And if your team's in the middle of that, and even, for us selfishly in our business, if people are split about it and opinionated about it, even better. It's all under the big top.
It's really not so one-sided, but the draft, talking with Bills fans about the draft every year, it kind of feel like it sounds sort of the fans are all in on whatever they do. And I know that's not literally true. And I also know, maybe as well as anybody, that your callers are not necessarily proportional to what the fans are thinking overall, But most people are believe it or not, most people are pretty casual about it all. And when Brandon Beane shows up at midnight on Thursday and tells you why Walter Nolan is all these great things, you're going to be like, yeah, cool, I'm in. And so The draft is often, games are not like this, seasons are not like this, but the draft is like this, where the fans really sound usually, almost always, like they're talked into it. This is our guy now. I'm going to buy a jersey. And, the draft is, after the draft is when we get the calls from people like, why do you got to bring him down if you don't like the pick? But if you don't, you don't. This business is evaluating what they did, in a real way. And a lot of times with the draft, each of us have taken turns being like, oh my God, no. Why are we trading up for Kincaid? Why are we trading up for Ragland? And those are a couple of mine.
Sammy Watkins
for you.
Right.
And so all of that goes against the grain. Games, if the Bills win, sounds like everybody's impressed. If they lose, everybody's mad, So they were kind of like on the same page week to week during the season. But often, if not usually, on the other side of the fence when it comes to the Bills and the draft.
Yeah, the draft, everything you just said brings to mind Jeremy White from our morning show's free agency flow chart, which is basically what player for how long? Did my team do it? Excellent. So, what a terrible idea. If some other team, I would never give that guy that money. But the Bills, I love it. That makes sense.
Right. Sal coming up at 4. Brandon Beane spoke today. Josh Allen too. We'll cover as much as we can with Sal pretty soon here. Less than 20 minutes. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR. The time talking about Rafael Devers in here. You can't see us during the breaks. We haven't invented the technology yet. That's correct, isn't it?
I guess. I don't know. I don't
Isn't
know.
there like a screen that?
Yeah, there's like a.
We'll be right back.
Yeah,
kind of a screen.
Yeah, but I don't know that you couldn't just keep it up. I think maybe just as a courtesy to us, they take it down during the breaks.
That's nice.
They can't see me picking my nose. Because that's what I do during the breaks.
Yeah, just constantly. I try not to look. Devers, 1 year, 54 doubles, 8 steals. His career high in steals was 8. Answered a question I had about. I've never been down worse in fantasy baseball. Like, just all my best guys are hurt or bad, and just like it's depressing. Devers is one of them. 213.
Right.
So far.
You asked me, is he any kind of like a runner? And I'm like, I don't think he's a base stealer. I think he runs the bases okay, but I don't think he's a base stealer.
That's what I was asking. Like, didn't he used to run? I mean, I don't feel like I used to get shut out from steals on Devers, but 8 is the highest ever, so it's pretty much that. How about Crochet, your new ace, Boston? Garrett Crochet, Cy Young favorite.
Tell me all about him.
He's nasty. He was a White Sox.
Good.
He was on the White Sox, and they were the worst team ever, and ended up getting traded to Boston. 6'6", lefty. I don't know if he'll remind you of Sale. He looks different.
I'm going to have to check him out.
Yeah, you are. You got to know who he is, Garrett Crochet.
I do now. It wouldn't surprise you to know that I had never heard that name before, right this second.
I guess not. I know you don't follow it like you used to.
No, not at all.
Speaking of baseball, the Bisons are home today, 6:05. Nice day. $2 hot dogs.
Giddy up.
They're 5-13. Does anybody not go to the Bisons because of their record?
No.
I think maybe,
well,
a good, if they're 13-5.
Then maybe people go, but is their record going to stop you from going?
Right. No.
I don't think so. I think if you have the time free and maybe you're driving home right now, you just heard Mike Schopp say Bisons are home tonight, $2 hot dogs. I don't know. The fact that they're 5-13 probably is not a deterrent.
That's what I agree.
If it sounds like a good idea and it's nice enough day, you feel, you know what? Let's do that tonight.
Weather, hot dogs is pretty much it.
I don't have plans. I don't have a dinner plan. Like me, my wife's working. I'll go home, grab the kids, go to the ball game.
The thing, our work schedule is not conducive to getting to many ball games, but the thing that I realize over the years gets me there, I can enjoy a hot dog, especially if it's $2, a beer. Just baseball outside is probably my favorite sports thing to consume. It's one of them. It's the great player who's on rehab. That will get me. That's the thing that gets me to the pushes me over the edge and gets me to the ballpark. Is if somebody's down, if Guerrero were down or something like that,
right?
I would make plans,
or even somebody from the visiting team.
Yes,
right.
Dalton Varsho is with them. This is the first game of the series. He's with them for this game. Not a superstar, but a known good major league player.
Right.
He was in Dunedin and then was called up to Buffalo here on his rehab assignment. So you have that tonight, which is pretty good.
And his dad played for the Bisons.
Oh, really?
Gary
Varsho is his dad?
I saw a tweet from the Bisons account. I'll go find it. I was not counting on this coming up, so I don't have it flagged anywhere.
Okay.
But I believe I saw from Pat Malacaro that, and I don't know if it's the first son of a former Bison to play for the team or not, but I'm almost sure that that's the case.
Do you think it would be?
I think that's what I read, but I'm not. I don't have it. I can get there early enough.
They're a 150-year-old franchise.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, right.
But there were some breaks. But, this franchise goes back a long time. First ever father-son, not at the same time, but to both play for the Bisons.
When Varsho bats for the first time, this is from Pat Malacaro, voice of the Bisons. When Varsho bats for the first time, he will become part of the only known father-son duo to appear in a game for the Bisons in the modern era.
Okay.
His dad, Gary, played for the Herd in 1994.
Okay. I remember Gary Varsho.
Yeah.
Outfield. Like his son. Weather, good promotion, hot dogs, Star Wars, whatever it is. Major leaguer on a rehab assignment. Top 3.
Right.
for me for the Bisons. All right, Sal next. Ross Tucker today as well. That'll be at 5. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
It was Media Day over at One Bills Drive as we were just 2 days away from the NFL Draft, and yesterday started Phase 1 of the Bills' off-season workout program. Of those who spoke today, maybe most importantly, was General Manager Brandon Beane, who spent about 45 minutes with the media. He did confirm that running back James Cook is not in town for the start of voluntary workouts, but also wanted to squash any rumors on why he may not be in Buffalo.
We could all assume he's not here because he's unhappy with his contract or whatever, but that's not fair. He hasn't told me that.
We also heard from a number of players, including quarterback Josh Allen, and he appeared to be the last person to find out that Tre'Davious White was back with the Bills.
I just saw that we got Trey White back, which is pretty cool. I'm off social media, so I didn't know that. I was walking in the locker room today, and I peeked him, and I went to equipment manager. I was like, is that Trey White over there? Just making sure.
Trey White also spoke with the media today following signing his contract yesterday. And stay tuned, Sal Capaccio is going to join the show next for everything we heard today. Plenty of playoff action tonight. 4 games in the NHL at 6. Carolina hosts New Jersey. 7:30. Ottawa is in Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs. 8:30. The last of the playoff series will finally get underway. Tampa hosting Florida. Then for all the night owls out there, 11 p.m. sees Minnesota in Las Vegas to take on the Golden Knights. While in the NBA, it's 3 games. At 7, Indiana hosts Milwaukee. 7:30, Memphis trying to bounce back from a 51-point loss in Game 1 to OKC. They will be on the road attempting to do that. Then at 10, the Timberwolves look to take both games in L.A. versus the Lakers. And then in baseball, the Bisons also at home tonight, taking on the Red Wings just after 6. And that game can be heard on our sister station, The Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
All right, the Bills are around. The draft is this week. It's a fun and busy week for them and for us. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Sal Capaccio with us now on the West Her Hotline. I was thinking about how, I guess, unique maybe the draft is as a, quote, sporting event in that it's really only for the fans and the players. Like, I asked Pete Gwelly recently, the COO of the Bills, how many people from the Bills go to the draft? And he said none, except for this year marketing people because they want to host a draft.
They're going to see how Green Bay does it and right, get some ideas.
Sal talked to Pete about that and many other topics fairly recently. I don't know, like I like the idea in theory, Sal, of going to a draft, but I don't know what I would do there. If I didn't have a costume, I feel like I'd be very out of place.
Right, one of those big chains with a team logo hanging from it. Yes, right.
I've been there. I've been to a couple NFL drafts. Hold on, let me just turn me up. Is that better? You guys got me now? Is that good? Yep. Sorry, I didn't want to be too loud or too. Okay, so I've been to a couple drafts. When my last year at Syracuse, I had gone to New York City for the draft, and it was at the time Radio City Music Hall, I believe, and it was great. Or the Paramount Theater, actually, MSG. It was great. I loved it, and that was, I think, Kijana Carter was drafted first overall. I remember that. Then I loved it so much, I moved to Florida in a few months later, and I went the next year. I drove up on a little vacation, saw some friends, went to Syracuse, went to the draft again. That was 96. That's Terry Glenn in the wide receiver drafts that year. 97, I guess it would be, right? 96 and 97, either way.
I think so.
Well, I'm getting my years mixed up, but you guys get the point.
96, I think, is Glenn, because that's Eric Moulds. I think that is 96.
Okay, that's right. So 95 Kijana, 96 Glenn, I think. So I went to those 2 drafts. Anyway, what's interesting is back then, this isn't the same necessarily, they had a table full of like people and employees of the teams, like you see at the Sabres draft, NHL.
Right.
But it wasn't the GM in them. It was just like kind of representatives, ambassadors maybe, people who they would send there and turn in the card. Because I remember one year, Jerry Butler was the Bills table, and I had to tell him, hey, I wore number 80 in high school because of you. Like, this is great, right? And he was like the guy sitting at the Bills table handing in the cards. So when Pete says no one, I mean, there are people there. There's social media people there. I think what he means is no one who, like, is in the front office making decisions, and from the higher ups of the Bills are there.
Right, because those
are people who represent.
Those tables aren't there anymore. Like the crowd is all fans up front, right? And and you're describing this scene like on the arena floor when the NHL draft would travel around to different arenas, and you've got the arena floor is the 30 teams. They've all got their delegations.
And that's dead now too.
I think they're doing a remote draft this year for the first time, but there's already pushback because they had such a good time. I think they did the Sphere last year. Was supposed to be the last one, and it was. I guess they pulled it off so well that now there's regret about agreeing to go remote, so they may revisit it. But anyway, it's changed in that way. So I don't know where to cut it here with like who actually is there for the teams, but like I know the GMs and all the football executives are in their home cities.
I think the term is simply football department. I probably should have said that if I didn't at the beginning. Like that's what he meant by like
the football department not going right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I get asked all the time about that. Are you going to Green Bay? Are you going to be at the draft? All the time, and I tell people no because nothing really happens for me there. Now, I understand if a local TV station goes to the draft, especially if you're drafting high, because you get the video of it, the guy getting drafted, if he's there, if he's actually on stage. That's very worthy for them. For what I do, it's not, because all of the people are here. Like, the media room is packed. I will tell you, those 3 nights, especially Thursday night, there will be more people in that Bills media room than you see all year. Like, that's the night where everybody shows up. And we all hang out, we wait, we don't know what's going to happen. And then once it happens, later on, Brandon Beane comes out, he talks to us in a press conference after the draft. Everybody does their own wrap-up. I think Matt Bove and I recorded Always Game Day in Buffalo last year at about 12:30 in the morning, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, from down at One Bills Drive. And then we go home, and we're home at 2 in the morning, and you do the same thing the next night. And then the guy they drafted, he flies to Buffalo probably the next day, sometimes on Saturday, and then we get media with him.
What time would you run? Maybe don't answer for yourself if you don't want to, but thinking about myself, what time would I risk trying to get there by? You know, you gamble a little bit in case there's a big move. I mean, it doesn't seem likely, but if they trade up to 8:30, and I'm not there yet,
right?
Maybe you want to be there.
I know from history, Sal, you're there at 4 o'clock because we've talked to you at 4 o'clock on draft day. Like you are there. You put an 8-hour, overtime shift in. I think to cover the draft.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Mike, it's fun. It's so funny you're saying that. I'm thinking, what do you mean? Like I'm there when the damn thing starts. You know what I mean? Like I got to be ready. It's the other part of it is you just never know what happens beforehand because what if there is a trade by the Bills in some capacity at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and all of a sudden Brandon Beane talks. You just want to be there for all of that to do the job right? And then as far as being at the draft itself, Mike, you said you wouldn't know what to do with yourself. I get it. As a fan, like people are there just rooting on their teams. You have all these jerseys. I've seen it. But if you're working it and you're a media member, back then at least, I remember as a young guy just walking around to John Clayton or somebody else who was covering the team, the draft. Like, hey, tell me about this guy. What do you think about the draft picks that they made? So there was that to do.
That would have been cool. Sal Capaccio on the Wester hotline. Let's get to today. So Brandon Beane is an annual thing, probably, like his sort of laying out his thoughts on the upcoming draft. What were a couple of thoughts of his that were maybe interesting to you? I thought, not that this is a bad thing, but a lot of what he said is what he'll always say, just kind of board coming to you and all that kind of stuff. Were there a couple things, though, that maybe stood out as different?
I wouldn't say different. I would say that he kind of hits on the same themes, right? Which is we know from his history here of 7 years of drafting the way that they operate. And I asked him, I actually had the first question. It wasn't intentional or anything, but I happened to be the first person to ask. And I said, tell us about your process right now, where you are. Where are you in the process with your scouts and your staff? First thing he said, Mike, they're doing mock drafts. That's what they're doing right now. They're doing mock drafts. And he said on top of that, they're setting their board to make sure there's consensus from people. He said, you'll never have a perfect all-in-agreement consensus. There's going to be debates. That's healthy. But what they want to get is most they can a consensus of, is this guy a day one starter? Is this guy a primary backup? Is this guy, are we going to be able to get him a jersey on game day? That's where they're kind of leaning now, even though they already have kind of their board set up. They want to get a good sense of each player and where he fits there. So that was one thing. I thought it was interesting. I asked him a question that I guess it kind of surprised me. I've never thought of it this way because he opened up the door with another question he had answered in some capacity. So the way I tried to phrase it, and I still don't know if I asked it the right way or he understood me the right way, but either way, I think so, which is, okay, I said, you have a franchise quarterback here already. You have Josh Allen. But if there's a guy coming out that you think is a franchise quarterback, does that impact your grade on him because you already have Josh? Because he said they set the board up according to the Bills, what we want, not what the league does. And I get that. But that's interesting to me. But he said, right, it does impact the grade a little bit, but you're not going to take him anyway. But it does impact the grade. And that's interesting to me because of this. When we look at Chris Trapasso or Matt Miller or Mel Kiper, they don't do that. They don't have a team. All of their grades are always based on, you could probably take a 2025 guy and compare him to what you had in 2020 or 2015, and it's kind of going to be the same. It's going to be linear. I think from the sense I got from Bean and his answer, it's not that way for the Bills, simply because their roster has changed.
Right, so they wouldn't draft Cam Ward. Would he? Maybe his name would be up there, but No,
that's my point. I know he wouldn't draft him. What I'm asking is, here's a better way, and this is maybe why I'm confused. So
is he rated despite the fact that you have Josh Allen and you're not picking him? Like, I think you want to still have him up there because it helps the whole process, right?
I would think so. So I guess the best way, and if I get a chance to ask Brandon again, if I get a chance to talk to him, I think what I'll ask him is this. Listen, you were in Carolina when you drafted Cam Newton #1 overall. If Cam Newton came out right now the way he is, and you're the GM of the Bills with Josh Allen, do you still have him rated exactly the same grade as you did when he came out? Or does it actually impact it because you have Josh Allen?
I think you could grade these guys any way you want. That's what I would do. But how I would rank them would be what would vary based on my roster. Like, I might give Cam Ward an A, but I'm never taking them, and I can do whatever I want with them on the board.
Right. I might want to even have a pile, and I think teams do this. Like you hear, different media people say, red flags. Teams have got this. Certain guys not on 10 teams' boards because they're worried about off the field or whatever, injury history, medical, whatever. Like Cam Ward doesn't have any of those concerns as far as we all know, but I might grade him with whatever. If it's out of 100, he gets a 90, but I'm putting him over in this pile like he's committed crimes because I'm not picking him. He's in the I'm not touching you no matter what pile.
That's what I always figured, Bulldog. But I thought his answer was interesting, so I want to, next time I get a chance and he's not doing all this draft stuff, we have a chance to catch up, I want to ask him a little bit more about that because I'm just fascinated by that concept. Now, because of that, he was asked specifically, how often are you surprised players go really early than what you thought or a lot later they're still on the board? He said, a lot. And he said that's because we all have different boards based on our needs, right? And that's interesting based on how their roster is and how they see their fit for the Bills. But it's not just needs. It's what they think about the player, right? Because you just said it, Bulldog. There's going to be medical. There's going to be a lot of evaluations on the player that completely differ from team to team.
Do you know? Sorry. Go ahead.
And he also, I think, added, I didn't hear this part of what you're talking about, but I feel like this rides in a sidecar with it. He talked about 3-4 versus 4-3, right? We're going to, all teams are going to have different grades on guys, depending on how they would rate for us. Like if you've got a 3-4 guy that just isn't going to fit in our scheme, the grade is going to reflect that. Whereas 4-3 guys are going to be, that's more useful to us, and that is reflected in that grade. So the grade, the way he's talking there and what you're referencing sounds a little less objective, I guess I want to say. Like it's not because you're talking about what how does he rate for us? And that's it.
Yes.
Not just in the league, how should this guy be respected and where should he be picked within the league? It's more just these guys fit what we're doing, and therefore their grades are higher.
100% on and off the field as well, as you know. So that was interesting. So that was I thought an interesting conversation and part of it. The James Cook stuff was also interesting. I've heard you guys talking about that. He's not here this week, and as you heard the soundbite from Brandon Bean, he said, "Don't assume that it's because of the contract." He said James has not told him that. Said he still could be here next week or the week after, and he's still confident. Though he was confident James Cook is going to be ready to play, and also on top of that, he was asked a little before this question. I don't remember his exact wording, but he basically said he expects James Cook's under contract for this year, and he expects him to play on his contract this year, like the way it is.
That's it.
Look forward to him putting on our helmet again, I think was something that he said as well.
Can I squeeze in one more logistics question, please?
Yes.
How much information do you think NFL teams trade before the draft with each other? Like, does everybody just keep it all a big secret from all the other teams? There would be ways where you'd want to have conversations, I think, if I may, just like in a fantasy draft, where you try to feel out what's going to happen around you, only on a obviously much bigger scale. It comes off as everything is very secretive, these boards, and I'm sure the exact rankings often would be team to team, but I would like to think, too, there are times where, like, he gets on the phone with a few, maybe a lot, of other GMs and, like, all right, what do you see happening?
I don't know about that, Mike. I think that it's pretty secretive. Now, I think there are conversations of, well, I mean, look, you call up a team. Let's say you call up Atlanta and you want to move up to 15. Atlanta might need to share with you, well, listen, we have a couple teams looking to move up, and maybe even they get specific, but I doubt it. I think you have to have that. And then as far as players are concerned, very little. That's why Brandon Beane said he's so stunned at some of these guys going early or some of these guys being late. Like, he's like, oh my God, like, I can't believe that guy went there. Now, I will tell you, though, I have had many times over the years been told just through conversations with people about how guys were drafted, the process, and where they went. And at some point in the conversation, they would be, well, we had intel that this would happen. We had intel that this team would do that. Like, that's been a phrase used to me over the years, and I don't know where that intel comes from.
Yeah, you're right. The trade element makes it a little tougher to get on the phone with Atlanta, say, and ask them what they think is going to happen. They're so far from you that it feels to me like you could do that, but if everybody is trying to make trades work, and maybe then it's not what I would have assumed.
I would guess that. I also think I would expect that it's pretty secretive, like you're saying, Sal, as far as specifics on players. But that leads me to thinking, like, because I'm sure they talk to, I think Beane even said this, right? The teams around them, like, you're going to want to have some idea what it might cost. Are you open to moving back? Are you open to moving up? Whatever it is, right? You want to just have some... some framework there so that and then, like, depending on how well the counterpart, right? Like, whatever the GM of this team or their whatever their executive staff is like, you might hang up the phone and be like, oh, they love this guy. I'll bet they love, and you're just sort of, you're not exactly going to your app to gamble on it. You can't do it in New York State or as a team employee. But I just think those conversations would be fun to have internally about, what do you think the Vikings are up to? Or any team. I didn't pick them for any particular reason. It's just the one that came to mind. I would bet there's a lot of that, because you're trying to, why are they doing mock drafts? They're trying to figure out what teams are going to do around them. What do they need? What does their history tell us? What kind of player do they like? Are they concerned about off the field stuff as much as maybe we are? That kind of stuff.
That's the essence of mock drafting.
Right.
Isn't it? Like, just putting all that, what kind of run game scheme do they use? Because certain guys
Can I add this too, guys? Listen, this goes to what you just said. Bulldog is right. But how about this? That's why you don't see scouts or GMs fired until the draft is over. Right? I mean, like, they're not letting their intel go to another team.
Right.
It's so secretive. Like, you can't do that. Like, you get head coaches fired. The head coach is gone. The offensive coordinator's gone. You don't fire GMs, or maybe sometimes, I guess, a GM, because he's kind of putting the whole thing together as it's going on. He's been involved in the team. That can happen. GMs. But I'm talking about the scouting staff and all that. They stay on through the draft because of this.
One more piece of this, too, is... Again, let's say the Bills are calling Atlanta to try to feel them out, not to find out what they're pick. Just what are you sensing here? Atlanta might think, what are you going to do for me? Your sense of your answers to these same questions do nothing for me, because you pick after me. So what am I getting out of this transaction? A few minutes left here with Sal. So is there anything else on Beane that you want to bring up?
No.
Okay.
No, you guys, I'll if anybody wants, they can see a lot of stuff he said at Sal Sports on my Twitter feed.
Allen today, how was that?
Mm-hmm. It's good. I mean, Josh has always been kind of close to the vest and, not giving you too much. I don't know how to describe it. You guys know, you've heard from Josh many times. He's not a great soundbite that's going to cause some sort of controversy or big, headlines or anything like that. It's just about coming in and working and doing what he's supposed to be doing and, getting everybody on the same page and, glad to have all his teammates back. I guess the most notable thing was him saying that he didn't know Tre'Davious White was back on the team until he walked into the building yesterday.
That blew my mind, Sal. Like I can respect.
I know, me too.
I said this earlier. Like I respect going dark like that. If you can really do that, more power to you. But despite that, like not having social media, I can't believe 10 or 50 of his teammates didn't text him like, "Hey, we got Trey White back," because they're all not off. I'm sure guys on the team knew. So I don't know. That really surprised me. I mean, I admire it if that's really the case, because I just don't know how you could have avoided that news as the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. But what do I know?
I agree. For sure. I would say, though, Josh has had an eventful offseason, obviously. We know that he's planning
right.
a wedding.
Yep.
We know that his fiance is in a movie called Sinners, and he did talk about the movie and how everybody should go see it because it's awesome. And he was a part of that whole red carpet thing, and he said that was a different world, and it was a really interesting. He said he was obviously very proud of her and her career and what she's accomplished. So I could see at least that he's not getting the normal kind of info that he might be, or with texts going on back and forth. But that kind of thing, I would think you couldn't avoid.
Everybody at your Easter table knew Trey White was on the Bills. Everybody at your table knew that.
Right.
All right.
The other thing from Allen that maybe was notable that fans, if they haven't heard about it, might like hearing is how he talked about Keon Coleman, wanting to really put the work in. He said Keon told him he's already heavier. I am assuming that's working out, he's adding muscle, and I think that's encouraging, because he's been, ever since the season ended and Bean and McDermott talked like they did about he and Kincaid for that matter, been kind of like, all right, what do we really have here, and how alarmed should we be by how they sound about their top receiver pick from last year? And I don't know, I liked reading that. I liked hearing Allen talk about Coleman.
Yeah, I agree. That was good, and fans would probably want to hear that. And he also said the same thing that McDermott and Bean have both said. And he kind of did it with a pretty strong tone of, hey, he's still really young. Let's remember that. You know what I mean? It was a point he made. I think he wanted to really make sure he made, which was, you have to remember he's really young still, So that was interesting as well.
I just want to say that I do remember that. It's never lost on me that the guy we're criticizing is only 1 year in the league. Maybe there are fans that just completely blow past that, but it is a thing you hear. Sal, one more. I don't know if you thought about this at all, but today I saw a list of odds on which veteran player will be traded first Thursday night. It's a pretty good list of names. I mean, we've had some big player moves in this way in recent years. Like A.J. Brown, for one, getting traded for a first, maybe a first and a third in that case. The favorite is Jair Alexander. I've read that this is a Green Bay cornerback, prominent player. I've read that Green Bay would take a day 3 pick for him. I don't know the cap stuff, but Mark Andrews was the second favorite, along with Trey Hendrickson of the Bengals. Maybe you have a thought. I mean, the thought of Alexander and the Bills has passed my mind, thinking about their need at that position, relatively speaking. Have you thought about this market at all? Not the betting odds exactly, but just sort of who might be moved. Hendrickson's been a big name for this offseason.
I think Jalen Ramsey should be on this list. Maybe not draft weekend, I guess. Maybe that's just too much for a team. But it seems like we know that they're looking to trade him. I think Tyreek Hill should be on this list. That could very well be something, remember? Okay, there you go. I would think that. It's interesting with Alexander, phenomenal talent, really is. He's just had trouble staying healthy, guys. And I think that another team would have to have a little bit of caution there. But, man, he's a fantastic player, of course. You always have to remember with any of these trades that happen, this is the Ramsey point. I was doing a Las Vegas radio spot yesterday, and they said, Jalen Ramsey, he's available. Do you think the Bills would do that? They're looking for a corner. And I'm like, why would the Dolphins trade him to the Bills? First of all, I don't think they would want to do that. But I don't know, man. You also got to pay these guys, right? Whatever their contract is, or a new contract in some cases. That's the James Cook thing for me. I don't know why anybody would do that. So it always makes it a lot more difficult, which goes to your point, Mike, which may be why a day 3 pick is why you get a guy like that, because the more you have to pay him, the less the compensation is going to be, and the inverse is correct.
Yeah, right. Ramsey is on the list too. Micah Parsons makes it at plus 5,000, and Cook is not listed for what that's worth.
Okay. I also don't think James Cook will be traded draft weekend. I don't think the Bills have any intention right now on trading James Cook. Who knows what happens through the offseason, how all of this stuff goes, but based on just how I think the Bills operate and based on what Brandon Beane said today, I'll stick to what I've said to you guys all along. I think the most likely outcome is him playing on the final year of his contract.
I do too. I'm so glad you mentioned this again, because thinking about Beane and how he sounded about Cook, I think heading into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you'd want to have as much information as you can get. Now, they don't have to share it with you, his agent or Cook himself, but like if he's planning on going to the mattresses here, then that would impact my draft planning, I think, to some extent. So I wonder how much Beane really knows from Cook's camp about what his plans are. But I would definitely want to ask. Like, I want to have as much assurance as I can. Like, look, we couldn't agree on this, but are we going to have a problem here? Because that could alter what I'm going to do on Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, I agree that they'll probably want to at least have that in the back of their mind. I would think that what they feel about Ray Davis and Ty Johnson and what they have already could impact that. They just did take Ray Davis in the 4th round last year. Let's remember that. So, yeah, you're going to want to at least have that as a backup. Man, I still don't know if I would see it happening early. You'd have to really, to take a guy in the first 3 rounds, considering the running back room they have, to take a guy in the first 3 rounds, I think that would be a story, and that tells you something.
Exactly.
They're going to take anybody, guys. I think it's got to be on day 3, and we're probably just talking about, okay, depth piece, backup when it comes to that. That being said, I will say real quick before I go, I did ask Brandon Beane, do these 6-game suspensions to Michael Hoyt or Larry Ogunjobi affect anything about their prep this week? He said no. He said you have to treat them kind of like an injury that they'll be back from after 6 games.
Sal, thanks. We'll talk tomorrow if you have the time.
I will. Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. His appearances are brought to you by New York's only outlet, Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
The better question for tomorrow is whether we have the time. We always want to make time for Sal, but Nick Costos, Chris Trapasso, Christian Benford.
Right, Christian Benford bunt from today. I was promoting that yesterday, but we will not have that today. He had something come up, so we are rescheduling that for tomorrow.
So, there it is. Ross Tucker at 5 today. If they draft a running back in the 4th round, he'll at worst be the 2nd best running back they have. The class is so much better. 803-0550 for your thoughts on the draft. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
Busy times over at One Bills Drive. We were just 2 days away from the start of the NFL draft, and yesterday started phase one of the Bills' offseason workout plan. Of those who spoke today with the media, most importantly was General Manager Brandon Beane. Spoke for about 45 minutes with the media today and did confirm that running back James Cook is not in town for the start of voluntary workouts, but also wanted to squash any rumors on why he may not be in Buffalo.
We could all assume he's not here because he's unhappy with his contract or whatever, but that's not fair. Like, he hasn't told me that.
Bills quarterback Josh Allen and cornerback Trey White also spoke today. You can listen back to what they had to say up at our website, WGR550.com, or on the Odyssey website. Plenty of playoff action this evening. We'll start in the NHL. 4 games. At 6, Carolina hosts New Jersey. 7:30, Ottawa in Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs. 8:30, the last of the playoff matchups will get underway. Tampa Bay hosting Florida. Then for you Night Owls, 11 p.m., Minnesota in Las Vegas to take on the Golden Knights. And then in the NBA, 3 games. At 7, Indiana hosts Milwaukee. 7:30, Memphis trying to bounce back from a 51-point loss in Game 1 to Oklahoma City. They are on the road attempting to do that. And then at 10, the Timberwolves look to take both games in Los Angeles when they take on the Lakers. And in baseball, the Bisons are at home taking on the Red Wings just after 6, and that game's going to be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
You know, he sent me a couple long texts wanting to be better, and we're going to continue to work extremely hard and try to get on the same page. He's got so much ability. He's so athletic. He's already put on some weight, and he's gotten a little bit stronger, so I'm excited to see his progression. And he's still so young. He's 21 right now, right? Like, he's still got a long ways to go in terms of learning the nuances of the wide receiver position, and having the guys in the room that we do, I think they can help him. And again, I'm so excited for his future because the ability that he has, it's off the charts.
Josh Allen on Keon Coleman.
21 is young.
21 is young.
That's different than it's only his second year to me. Like, 21 is different than because you could be going into your second year and be 24 years old. 21 is young to be going into your second year in the NFL. I don't know how old he will be when the season begins. But I don't need to get super hyper technical here, but that's young for a second year NFL player. So I wonder if that's a little bit of a tell there that, like, Josh recognizes what didn't go well last year when he came back from the injury, and if that he's only 21 is a part of that story. You know, he didn't really know how to do what needed to be done, and maybe didn't do great at it because of that, or partially because of that. It's all part of learning how to be a pro. So
maybe
I want to be hopeful for Coleman. I mean, they don't have a ton. I mean, it's their top pick from last year, and it's a pass catcher, and it's someone who had a very incomplete grade for year one. I think it was going. I'll use the word, and I'm not trying to be cute. I think it was going fine until he got hurt, and it just never ever really looked good again. From there out. So hopefully he can stay healthy and has had a good offseason and is someone that can take some degree of a step coming back here for year 2.
Going into his second year, he's 21. Kincaid is 2 years into his career, he's 25. So you're right. We want young when we're drafting receivers. It's a good trait. The younger guys who pop at a younger age, it's more predictive of success than maybe a senior would be. Maybe that's counterintuitive because they're sacrificing experience for that. But the younger, the better, mostly. It's interesting how quarterback has changed. First of all, the sport changed because you had with COVID, right? I mean, you had college players who were playing for 6 years. Bo Nix, whatever that was.
Right.
There were a couple of receivers we talked about last year that had been in the system for a long time because they got an extra year of eligibility from it.
Right.
There's this quarterback prospect, quote, prospect, this year, Tyler Shugg.
Going to be 26 by opening day.
I heard today on our podcast how he was playing college football in 2018. Right. Like, that was Allen's rookie year, and this guy was a rookie in college.
Right.
And this year is when he comes out from Louisville.
Yeah.
So I think that's changed. But Nix, who played for so long, everybody made fun of his age, but what did it look like? He looked like he was ready.
It worked, yeah. And maybe this Tyler Shugg will be that too. I don't know. But, boy, 26 on opening day just would really scare me about a quarterback. I don't think it's the same. Although this guy in particular, maybe he's not someone who's running around, right? The highlights I've seen of him, I just think like Drew Bledsoe is what I'm thinking of when I'm watching this guy play, which is, talk about a throwback. Like, that is really a throwback. It's Joe Flacco, true pocket quarterback with not a lot of mobility. Like, that's a concept in the league that I feel is getting, it's harder and harder for me to see it working really well. Like, to me, you'd have to be so excellent at that part of it to not have escapability and running be some part of your arsenal that and it's not that the guy can't move around in the pocket, but it's just not what he's all about. So 26 years old already, wow. Like, maybe that can work because you're not looking for him to run. Like, I think of like Allen for this, and at some point, Jackson too, at some point the running either just for self-preservation or because functionally it's not as dangerous as it used to be, is just going to become less and less a part of the thing as you go along. This guy being 26, he's not a runner anyway. Maybe it's not that big a deal, right? He can stand there for 10 years in the pocket and throw passes, and you can feel good about the pick. I don't know, but man, 26 on draft day, or 26 by the season opener would be a big no from me.
The thing, back to Coleman, for me, the draft is an inexact science, right? I mean, we all know that. Some of the most highly acclaimed executives in the league over the years have blown drafts. Belichick's drafts were famously inept as he went along running the Patriots. So it's not like you can always know. That's the preface. I recognize that. At the end of it with Coleman, some guys don't work out, right? Elam didn't work out. Where does the blame lie? Elam didn't work out. I mean, I think for the most part, the pick made sense. For the most part, he was not considered a reach. Mm-hmm. And he worked hard, and people always talked up his work ethic and his, the effort he put in. Didn't work out. Do you blame the Bills? I mean, you can always do that, credit or blame, depending on the player. With Coleman, I'd be more inclined to blame the Bills if that doesn't get better, because there were too many holes in his profile. Like the separation piece, maybe, I don't know, but this is sort of the inference you made from listening to Allen, is like maybe the maturity wasn't all the way there. And hey guys, he's still only 21. Fair enough. But how he played was the issue, I think, with Coleman, and the lack of separation. And I doubt maturity is going to help him get open in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, you can improve, and that's what everybody would want, and that's what every effort made to remind us how young he is about. I just think, that was a tough one. The player was a tough one for me, for what all the time we spent on wide receiver. Not as much as they, I know, but all the time we spent on that, I just thought the guy wasn't impressive enough, in that one, especially in that one area, which is massive, to warrant that pick.
Yeah, he was more. I mean, when I crushed on him, very early. It was during the college football season, even he made highlight reel plays, and that's alluring when you're thinking about get this guy on the field for my team. Oh my gosh! And then you get under the hood and do all the work, and it's like, I don't know. My criticism of him as an idea was largely, I don't want my top pick. Like, I'm supplementing my receiving core. I'm making it over here ultimately because I've traded Diggs away and Davis is gone. So I'm starting over. And the first piece I'm adding to it is someone who I'm going to throw fades to in the end zone. Like, no, that's he's 50-50 balls. Yeah, that's bad process to me. So that always worried me about him. I wonder the thing about being harder on them for that, if if it were to become a miss on the level of Elam, which it almost already isn't. I mean, Elam barely played for them. Coleman at least got in the end zone a couple times last year. I think he shows enough promise to feel like, okay, let's see what happens now. Whereas Elam was just, oh my God, what happened? What did we do? But the Bills chose to, they had the pick of so many guys. Like, Elam was maybe at the tail end of first-round grades on corners, and they had to move, and maybe they really were targeting McDuffie. That's the story anyway. I mean, it's nice to say because he's turned into a fantastic player for Kansas City. There just wasn't as much of a choice to make. I need a corner, and here's a guy that we have a good enough grade on, and consensus says that. Not that they're paying attention to consensus, but it's not a pick that was openly, oh my God, I can't believe the Bills did that, right? With Coleman, I mean, they're at 28. They have a pick of 3 receivers before they end up with Coleman, and they pass on all of them and wait for Coleman. Now, I don't know if they liked Leggett and couldn't believe that Carolina took him when they did, or even Worthy, or whatever, what they thought they were going to get when they moved like they moved twice. But in the process of doing that, they passed on other guys. And with Elam, it felt like your last chance to get a corner with that pick was him. And that doesn't excuse the miss, but it buffers the criticism of it a little bit to me, because I get how they were operating.
Absolutely.
With Coleman, it's just...
You had your pick of 10.
Yeah, and you chose to do this, and that makes it different.
Yeah, I think so too. Coleman's 21. Allen will be 29 in a month. And I think that's the first age where it starts to feel like, all right, a lot of time has gone by here now.
Right.
Because when you're 29, you're almost 30.
Right.
And then you're in a different bracket. Then you're 30. You're quarterbacks at 30 that have won. Quarterbacks at 30 that have done this, this, and this. And there are lots of them, but it's 29 for me would be sort of like a page kind of gets turned.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to rush it, though.
Right.
He's still 28, which is probably a pretty good age to be. I know it is. All right. Not because I have any specific 28 memories right now. Let's see. Do you even care? 99. Music City Miracle, I would have been 28. 27, 28. That was not a great memory. It had nothing to do. I'm lost here. That had nothing to do with. It's totally irrelevant.
I was probably still in college at 28.
Yeah?
Yes, I went back late when I went for broadcasting. I was 25 in Connecticut. I came home and I went to college. So I wasn't even in this field when I was 28. I can't remember what 28 was like now.
We'll get back to this. Ross Tucker coming up at 5 here on WGR. I missed yesterday's show unexpectedly. Sabres some yesterday?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah. I was pretty aggravated. Go figure. Sabres.
How could that happen?
It just Adams Saturday talking about I believe we should be in the playoffs right now. What? Like and he said a lot of other stuff that it starts with me and all that usual stuff, but I believe we should be in the playoffs right now. Sounds to me like I built a team good enough to be in the playoffs and everybody else screwed it up. Is how it's a way you could interpret that. I'm assuming he didn't mean it to sound that way, but
not quite that bluntly.
I'm in such a bad place with them that I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like the Rangers won the President's Trophy last year. They missed the playoffs. Coach is gone. Same coach who won the President's Trophy last year. I don't know if Chris Drury's having news conference saying like I think we should be in the playoffs right now. Maybe he is. I'm not paying attention. I just thought it was misplaced to say it that frankly. Like, I believe we should be. By what measure? You didn't just miss. You like Hudson Fasching kicked a goal in that shouldn't have counted, and it cost you points in the standings. You missed by 12 points. Your special teams were terrible. Your goaltending regressed. Your overall defensive play was terrible. Congart's on the 5-on-5 scoring. Like, that's a very important piece to have. But everything else was kind of a mess.
Good use of Congarts.
Yeah, thank you. It's just for you.
I have an idea for them next year. If they feel like they have an image problem, how bad do they want it? How committed? The thing in soccer where if a team is losing and they score and they all just like rush to get the ball out of the net and sprint to midfield and want to start. Does the game actually go any faster when they do that? I don't know, but it's the look of it that I would like to see the Sabres do that after every goal they score next season.
Get the puck and
sprint,
hurry up,
rush to the net. And how many fights would that start?
Skip the parade to the bench.
The completely useless tradition that's just swallowed hockey whole. Every team at every level does the same boring thing. No, I'm going to the net, grabbing the puck. We're all sprinting to our positions and lining up. We want it more than you.
Get over here, ref. Let's
go. I know the clock is stopped, unlike soccer. I'd like to see somebody come up with something else. Oh, bum, 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 bum. I really hate that. It's just so... Nah. Is there any sort of like life to it, or just sort of a ritual that
you remember watching hockey when they didn't do that, right?
Yes,
that's our lifetimes. I don't remember. I don't have a line of demarcation in mind for when it started happening. I know the first time I ever saw it is when Owen was 5 years old playing youth hockey for the Bisons, and I was on the bench. We did that because they were 5.
Yeah, it looks like you're all 5.
So
in the 70s, the whole team would come out on the ice. Go watch a 70s Sabres game when they would score. Everybody comes out on the whole bench empties.
Really?
Yes. I don't know if that was every time.
I don't remember that way at all.
The bench emptied when you scored.
I'm disputing that. I don't remember.
I don't know how often. Maybe it wasn't every time.
Maybe record breakers or something. I don't remember. I don't remember in the second period, Gilles Perreault scoring a goal and the whole bench coming out.
I'm going to find it for you.
Okay. I'm curious to see it because I do not remember that at all. I remember making the point about, being when Owen's a little kid playing, because I just remember the guys on the ice, the 5 people on the ice, or sometimes less, like, the goal scorer would turn, raise his hands. If it was Mike Foligno, he'd jump up and down, and then those guys would congratulate him, and then they would go have the next face-off. There was no bench thing, and right. I don't remember everybody pouring out on the ice either. I just remember 5 guys like, hey, good job, we scored. It was us.
Make sure you have a lot of questions for Ross Tucker, because I'm going to go find this right now.
Okay,
and
I'll be ready to roll on Ross.
Ross Tucker on WGR right after this.
Over at One Bills Drive, as we are just 2 days away from the start of the NFL Draft, and yesterday began Phase 1 of the Bills' off-season workout program. Of those who spoke today, maybe most importantly was General Manager Brandon Beane. He did confirm that running back James Cook is not in town for the start of voluntary workouts, but also wanted to squash any rumors on why he was not in Buffalo.
We could all assume he's not here because he's unhappy with his contract or whatever, but that's not fair. Like, he hasn't told me that.
Bills quarterback Josh Allen and cornerback Trey White also spoke today. You can listen back to what they had to say up at our website, WGR550.com, or on the Odyssey app. We do have plenty of playoff action tonight, starting in the NHL, 4 games. It'll start at 6 as Carolina hosts New Jersey. 7:30, Ottawa's in Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs. 8:30, the last of the playoff series finally gets underway with Tampa hosting Florida. Good news for the Panthers. Matthew Tkachuk has been activated from IR. And then for all you night owls, 11 p.m. at Minnesota in Las Vegas to take on the Golden Knights. In the NBA, 3 games at 7. Indiana hosts Milwaukee. 7:30, Memphis trying to bounce back from that 51-point loss in Game 1 to OKC. They'll be on the road trying to do that. Then at 10, the Timberwolves will look to take both games in Los Angeles as they take on the Lakers. And then the Bisons there at home tonight, taking on the Red Wings just after 6. That game will be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Schopp and the Bulldog.
We're up there, and here are the people on the panel, so I'm taking pot shots at Brian Brown. Because, that's what he came to Buffalo for.
It's Mike Schopp.
You literally told E.J. Manuel to his face that he sucked.
And the Bulldog.
I was proud of you, because I
feel like that's what you're there for.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I know. I couldn't, though. No. I couldn't.
I'm better than you.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
I was the MC. That's what makes it different. Bulldog was the entertainment.
You had some very good moments.
I had one
as the MC.
I had one.
You had some very good moments.
With us now on the West Her Hotline is Ross Tucker. Ross, how's life?
It's pretty good. Yeah, I was just down in the Bahamas for spring break with my kids. Got back yesterday. I'm getting ready for the draft. I'm doing a Labatt Blue Light watch party at my favorite bar in my hometown of Reading, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
If you would have told me when I was 21 or 23, someday you're going to get paid to go to your favorite bar, watch the NFL draft, and drink Labatt Blue Light, I would have been like, "That's it. Then I'll know I made it." Forget the NFL. Forget talking with you guys. Thursday night is when I will have officially made it.
Love that.
Well, we're very happy for you.
I saw the picture from your vacation, or one of them, and I thought, this is going to be one of these times tomorrow where we're talking to Ross, and he's on a beach, and he might have had a couple, and that's fine. A little bit more energy, maybe. Not that you ever lack it, but it did turn out that you went home. So, for better or worse, we don't have beachside.
We don't
Ross.
have Bahamas Ross.
Bahamas Ross.
Oh yeah, no, we are full-fledged back to reality, and I am on my way to pick up my daughters from one of their 3 dance classes, because you can't just do one. You can't just do one dance. You got to do jazz. You got to do hip hop. I think tonight is theater. I don't even know what theater dance means. What does that even mean? But anyway, that's where they are.
It's a Tuesday at 5, isn't it? The 3 of us talking, and you're on your way to pick your daughters up. Well, Ross, we don't have as much time as we would during the season, I know. The Bills at pick 30. We've been talking about this in here every day since the Super Bowl, at least. And it sounds to almost every analyst like it's going to be defense there. Does it seem that way to you?
I'm not as convinced of that as other people are,
okay.
Actually. I forgot, by the way, that the Bills had 2 second-round picks. Refresh my memory on how they got the other one.
Stephon Diggs.
Oh, my gosh. The gift that keeps on giving. That is huge, especially in this draft. You guys know I'm a big fan of Brandon Beane. And I guess you don't know how the draft is going to go. What I will say, though, is everybody I talk to will tell you it's like one of the best D-tackle drafts in terms of depth, maybe not like, top 10 guys, like Warren, for Aaron Donald, but in terms of depth at D end and D tackle, which I would just say makes his sort of spending spree, with Joey Bosa and Michael Hoyt and Ogunjobi, and not that they went overboard with any of those guys, but I mean, out of those first 3 picks they have, they could very easily, based on everybody I've talked to, get 2 D-line stars. A little bit interesting that they kind of knew that, and they still went out and got Bosa and Ogunjobi and Hoyt anyway. What that speaks to for me, guys, is twofold. Number one, they saw what the Eagles do, and they saw what the Eagles did to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And then number two, you still can't count on those rookies this year. In other words, that sounds good. You can get starters in the second round. A lot of times you get to the season and they're not really doing much for you. And the Bills, it's now, right? The time is now. It's time to win. We know that. And plus, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Ogunjobi's just a 1-year deal. Joey Bosa might have been as well. So it's not like they totally, it's not like it precludes them from drafting these guys.
Right, but right on both counts. Hoyt is 2 or even 3 years. More of a commitment on Hoyt, but the other 2 are just 1-year deals. What I'm wondering is this depth, particularly at defensive tackle, Ross, because there's 2 different things. You mentioned the Eagles, right? And just the hell they made life for Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And, of course, football fans all over America, all over the world, man, I need my team to do that. And, of course, the Bills keep butting their heads on the ceiling that, the floor the Chiefs are on. So I got to go do that. But the depth, I worry at 30 whether they can get a guy that can be as well-rounded as, because, Saturday, you'll be able to get a 330-pound guy to plop next to Ed Oliver and take up 2 blockers and keep guys off your linebackers, probably. But I don't know that you're getting somebody that's going to wreak havoc in the backfield. I think you got to get one of these guys, the Oregon guy or Harmon or Kenneth Grant, realistically, Walter Nolan, someone like that is going to be in the first round. And I worry they're going to be gone by 30 because they have the ability to do both of those things.
Yeah, well, to your point, okay, Bulldog, none of these guys are really considered to be, elite prospects. Even Mason Graham from Michigan, who I think will be the first guy off the board, he's not like a physical phenom, right? He's a really good player, but he's not one of these guys in these drafts where you're he's not Jalen Carter for the Eagles, right? He's not Chris Jones or one of these guys. And what I would say is, to your point, everybody knows how valuable D tackle is. I mean, the New England Patriots just made a guy who didn't really start until this past year and was never the Eagles' best defensive tackle. They just made him the highest paid player in franchise history, the Patriots did, Milton Williams. I mean, think about that. He was like a part-time player until his 4th year, and he still wasn't Jalen Carter. I mean, you watch the tape, Milton did some good things, but Jalen was the one that was always getting double-teamed, playing every snap, killing people. So I bring that up only to suggest, to your point, if there's really a guy that you feel like has the total package, he's consistent, he's physically, they're not going to be there at 30.
Right.
They're just not, right? So, but sometimes strange things happen. It's insane that Jalen Carter didn't go till 9, but that's because he had some off-the-field issues. So, for the Bills, maybe that's Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall. Maybe teams are concerned enough about his background that he ends up still being there for them. At 30, I doubt it, but maybe. or maybe Walter Nolan, from Ole Miss. And I don't think those guys will last till 30, but one of them might. And if they do, that doesn't mean they're like. Think about this: 2 years ago, the Eagles got Nolan Smith with I think the 30th pick. And he led the NFL in sacks in the playoffs, and he'll end up being their best defensive end for the next few years. And he was still there because coming off of an injury, considered undersized, blah, blah, blah. So we'll see who that ends up still being there for the Bills at 30. But I wouldn't be convinced. I wouldn't be surprised because it is so deep. If at 30, if they have a surprise, wide receiver drop to them, I wouldn't rule that out. I don't think they would go there at running back because of what they got with Ray Davis last year, but I do think the James Cook situation is interesting. It's not going to be a tight end, but maybe it's one of the linebackers, right? They redid Milano's contract, so maybe if Shahad Campbell falls to them and they think he can give him some rush, but he drops because of his labrum, maybe they take him.
A few minutes left with Ross Tucker. Ross, my favorite thing about this draft is the running backs, starting with Genty. I'm super eager to find out just what the league wants to do about them. Such a great and deep class, everyone says, at a time when, or maybe we're coming out of it, where we decided running backs were pretty much replaceable almost across the board. So I'm excited about that. I wonder what you think of what you've heard about the running back class.
Yeah, so what I think is interesting there is, for a while there, everybody knows Genty's a truly elite player, just like an unbelievable player. I will say this, the amount of tackles that he breaks is insane, and it's incredible, and it's the biggest reason why you would draft him. But to me, it's also a little bit concerning. He's playing in the Mountain West Conference. How about making somebody miss every once in a while? You know what I mean? I love that he can break that many tackles, but that doesn't mean I want him to.
Might be harder to do in the NFL, you think?
It's going to be harder to do in the NFL, and it's going to beat his body down. That's just – even if you do break a tackle, you still took on that contact. So I wonder if other teams are thinking of that the way I'm thinking about it. The Omarion Hampton guy everybody loves, and he'll go in the first round. What's interesting, and we discussed this on today's Even Money betting podcast. All we did on today's Even Money betting podcast was talk about the draft and prop bets and where guys might go. And we really think we like the over 2.5 running backs. Mike, to your point, we think Travion Henderson is going to go in the first round. I think with what Jahmyr Gibbs has done in Detroit and what Saquon did for the Eagles, I think having a running back that's really good on third down and having a running back with that kind of juice, that kind of speed, I think people are going to say that's what we need. We need a guy that when we get him in space, he can take it the distance, or he's got rare burst, or can take it a long way, or whatever. And I would not be surprised at all if Henderson goes in the first round. In fact, I would be surprised if he doesn't at this point.
Quick thought on Travis Hunter before you go, Ross, just how spectacular an idea for a player this is, the so-called best receiver and best corner in the draft, both.
Yeah, no, I did Colorado State last year for CBS. I don't know if you guys remember or not. I don't say this lightly. I think he's the best college football player I've ever seen.
Wow.
What people don't realize is, especially in today's day and age of college football, with all of the up-tempo offenses, guys, he was playing like 140 snaps a game. In the NFL, both offense and defense, they only play about 60. They probably average 60 to 65. This guy was playing more snaps than are in an entire game in the NFL, offense and defense, which is just insane to me. And I've had people tell me, on the Ross Tucker podcast, Todd McShay said he is the best wide receiver. and he is the best corner. Fran Duffy, who does a terrific job, he graded Travis Hunter as two separate players. Travis Hunter, a receiver, and Travis Hunter, the corner, and both of those guys were top 5 prospects for him. So two different guys with the same name. So we've just never even seen anything close to this. There's a lot of different interesting aspects of it. Obviously, I'd be shocked if the Browns did not take him. That's who they need to take. But, where do you start him? How much do you play him on the other side of the ball? Would you rather have two very good players, or would you rather have one elite player? There's a lot of really interesting discussions as it relates to Travis Hunter and what he ends up doing in the NFL. Most people think he's further along and more ready to be a high-end player on offense than defense, but you can't really be a part-time corner because of how important communication is in the second. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects of it. And I think even just that one thing I said, the great talk radio topic, it's like, would you rather have one guy who's very good at two positions or elite at one? Because I think it's going to be really hard to be elite at two. So then you have a decision to make.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about wear and tear on Genty. I think there's a wear and tear point about Hunter playing both sides in the NFL, too.
Ohtani. Very good.
No question.
Ross, thanks a lot for fitting us in. It's always great to have you.
Hey, it is my pleasure. Great to talk with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ross Tucker on the West Her hotline. Ohtani. I guess it's a different physical toll, although he's had Tommy John.
He's paid
twice.
The price. Yeah, I mean, he certainly has paid the price. Is he pitching?
He's not back yet.
Okay.
He's ramping up.
Okay.
As they say.
All right.
I've not found an instance of a
bench clearing celebration after a Sabres goal, like you were referring to a little while ago.
There would not have been a playoff game winner. Yeah. Obviously, that wouldn't count.
Right.
I did find a Don Luce Mario Tremblay fight.
Oh boy! Wow, that's incredible.
Game 2 of the 75 semifinals. What you have is, I think, I'm going to find it because I know I've seen it. The whole team comes on the ice to celebrate the goal. I'm trying to think of a team. It wouldn't even have to be the Sabres, like a team where I remember seeing it, like the Rangers come to mind for some reason. I think you do see, like, if a different line is coming on after a goal that, like, they're on and the other guys are on together.
Sure, so there's maybe 10 guys in the huddle celebrating. Yeah, that could happen. Sure.
It's the best I've got.
Yeah.
So far.
All right.
Ross is up for some ideas. Linebacker, running back at pick 30. Love it. What do you think of the logic? They've spent on defensive line and free agency. By the way, I'm not sure how I want to fit this in yet, but I know Bean today said that those suspensions do not affect his plans for the draft, which I think is good because that's really drafting for need. You're drafting for the first 6 games of the season? No. So they've spent on the D-line maybe significantly enough that would have you think it might not be the urgent need, maybe like most of us seem to sound like it is.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard sell for me, I think, because the suspensions are going to happen, and furthermore, like, I don't know, Ogunjobi, I recognize, is not just a Austin Johnson, Quentin Jefferson. Well, no, I think he kind of is. I think he's that. I think he's Jordan Phillips. Like, maybe not at the tail end, but Jordan Phillips, 3 years, his first time with the Bills. Plug and play, 30 snaps, in the rotation, not a top of the lineup guy. Like, just give us some depth, give us some good snaps. Like, I feel like that's what he is. And what I think you still should be looking for is a guy to replace Daquan Jones eventually, who is like the kingpin of that position. And so, Jones is still here, and I'm sort of down on him as an idea. I frankly thought the Bills might move on from him this offseason, but they have not, at least not as of yet. Who knows? Maybe if they find their way to Walter Nolan or Kenneth Grant at 30, maybe they'll do that after June 1st or something and save some money. But I don't feel like any of the guys, like Bosa and Hoyt, are closer, but they're both edge guys mostly. Like, I know Hoyt's going to move around, but that again is not the guy I'm anchoring next to Ed Oliver. I think I still need that guy. I don't think that guy is here yet, unless I'm missing the boat on how much they still are counting on Daquan Jones.
Sal Ross also kind of sounded like, I'm obviously going to overstate it here, but they're not that good. The prospects that would be left at 30 after the two that we talk about the most would be gone. So there's another reason to bet against. He did put it in betting terms against defensive line there. Corner is still there. I mean, Trey White doesn't probably change that. That might be my guess, would be corner first.
I do like that Ross got to receiver.
He did.
Like someone from outside of Buffalo that's not a part of the wide receiver train hive mind that we've been running here for 3, if not more years. Because I do still think that there is call for another dude there. They don't have a fully formed receiving core, I don't think.
This is, subjective, I guess, but he said if a wide receiver falls, and I think that would be McMillan. But there are still people speculating McMillan is going to be a top 6 pick. Like, he still might. It could be. We had this morning on ADP Chasing with Pat Davis and Jacob, my podcast with them. McMillan, as of the skill position players anyway, the one with the widest range of outcomes Thursday night, where if he's the best wide receiver in the class that isn't Hunter, that could be pick 5.
Right.
And if somebody likes Golden more, Dallas, and then somebody likes Ibuka more, I don't know, not Seattle, whoever, and then somebody likes Burden, they want to take that chance, or even without Burden. I can't imagine anybody else would go before McMillan. But I did see a mock draft recently somewhere with him at 30.
Oh, that was mine.
That was your.
I did that. Yes.
Just continuing to push the agenda.
Yeah, I use it's a Phantom account. It's Todd McShay.
It's PFS. Yes. Quote Todd McShay.
It's Todd McFlay on my but nobody really notices. Enough people don't notice, so I get away with it.
You paid for the check mark even as a parody account.
Yes. I got to commit to the bit.
There was an AI one that I saw that had Shadur Sanders picked twice. In the first round. I
don't think that can happen.
No. I'm pretty sure you're right. 803-0550. We would love to hear your draft take as we are now just over 2 days or nights away. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Lines are open. This is WGR.
It was a media day over at One Bills Drive. Very busy time for the Bills, just 2 days away from the NFL draft, and yesterday started phase 1 of the Bills' offseason workout program. Of those who did speak today, maybe most importantly, was General Manager Brandon Beane, and he did confirm that running back James Cook is not in town for the start of voluntary workouts, but also wanted to squash any rumors on why he may not be in Buffalo.
We could all assume he's not here because he's unhappy with his contract or whatever, but that's not fair. He hasn't told me that.
Bills quarterback Josh Allen and cornerback Trey White also spoke today. You can listen back to their interviews and what they had to say up at our website, WGR550.com, or on the Odyssey app. Plenty of playoff action today. 4 games in the NHL. We'll start at 6 o'clock. Coming up now in just about a half hour, Carolina hosts New Jersey. 7:30 sees Ottawa and Toronto versus the Maple Leafs. 8:30. We finally get the last of the playoff series going. Tampa hosting Florida. Good news for the Panthers, though. Matthew Tkachuk has been activated from IR. Then for all you Night Owls, 11 p.m. it sees Minnesota in Las Vegas to take on the Golden Knights. In the NBA, 3 games at 7. Indiana hosts Milwaukee. 7:30, Memphis. They are back in OKC looking to avenge their 51-point loss in Game 1. Then at 10, the Timberwolves look to take both games in LA versus the Lakers. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Who's been here since we started this thing and had great things, unfortunately had some setbacks with injuries, but he brings great experience to our team. Felt like if you watch his film, it really improved from the start of the year with the Rams to how he played down the stretch. He's another year off of the injury. So we have a lot of confidence in Trey, but no promises were made. We don't really do that a lot anyway. Let's just roll the ball and go. But yeah, we're pulling for him and would love nothing more. If he wins the starting job, that means we feel good with him.
Brandon Beane today. More from Beane at WGR550.com if you want it, or on the Odyssey app. Right? We carried it during One Bills Live, right? Beane?
Yeah, I heard a big chunk of it on my way in today. Yes.
You should be able to find that. Let's go to Michael here. Hi, Michael.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, of course. So I just wanted to quickly touch on some Ashton Jeanty stuff because we've been hearing a lot about him going to the Raiders at 6. There was some smoke about him potentially going at 5 to Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
That specifically, to me, felt like the biggest smoke screen. Shout out to Sam Hoppen on Twitter. He tweeted out this chart that would break down how much of the cap per draft pick a player would take. And Jeanty at 5 would take up, I think, 87th percentile with his cap, which would be the 5th highest paid running back in the NFL. It's 6, actually. 6, I apologize.
Okay.
At that spot. And then it came to the Raiders, and I was wondering if you guys are buying because it does feel like he's a shoo-in to go. But I do think the combination of Spytek, Carroll, and Brady, I think they're going to value building their team from the ground up. They understand the foundation that they're at, and I wanted to get your thoughts on where Jensen might end up, if not the Raiders.
I love that you asked. I'd want to bet against the Raiders, but I really don't know. A lot of people think it, and I think your point is sound. I also think Pete Carroll having a running back he can just marry is also, cause for it happening.
He's probably not real worried about what the long-range future looks like either with a guy like that, paying him a second time or whatever, because he's old and he probably thinks he isn't going to be there for 8 years.
There are going to be good to great running back options in round 2, and of course they'll pick early then also. Then what happens? Like if the Raiders don't take him, let me say this first. I think there is an absolute thirst for him. My guess would be right now, it'd be nice to get odds on it, is that he does go 5, but to a different team. That somebody moves up to draft Jeanty. And like I said earlier, I think it's both probably really bad drafting, and it's awesome because he's going to be so interesting. So who could that be? Can Dallas get all the way up from 12 to 5? That's rich. What is 12 to 5? 500 points. So it's Dallas is not even in the second round. Yes, they are. It's about their second round pick. I think the trades we usually get I know, are more lopsided than this chart suggests.
Because I'm thinking 12-7 is what the Bills did on draft night, right, to get Allen. And now I don't remember what that cost them.
We should have that one. I don't either. I don't have that one either.
They had an extra one from the previous year. I'm assuming they used that in that transaction. Because they used the Cordy, or did they use that in
Edmonds?
the trade up from with Cordy Glenn and the Bengals? Like, was there a pick in? I don't remember now, because that was the bigger move from the 20s to 12.
It was Tampa's 1 at pick 7 and a 7th rounder for the Bills' 1, which was the 12th pick, and 2 seconds. So it cost them essentially, I'm leaving out the 7th, it cost them 2 seconds to move up 5 spots.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the teams are not going to do that well, I think, this week. How did they get the other second? That's a good one. Is that also the Mahomes?
I don't remember all the logistics of that now.
I wish I did. I wish I remembered every draft trade in history and could just whip it out.
Yep.
2017 is Trey White. And that was pick 10 for pick 2791 in the first the next year. That's how we knew that. That's how they got the second first, is Mahomes.
Right. Yeah, because that was a big trade. I mean, that was 27-10 is going to get you into that neighborhood. So,
what is your thought on Genty? Bills.
I think it's one of these moments where living with you day to day, like I do for 4 hours a day, and then some, can be challenging, because I feel like it's it's so much of the attraction to the running back is in conflict with a lot of things that I think we agree on. But then you even just said it, like you're like me with the Reggie Ragland trade. It's not a good process, but go do it, right? Like. And that's fantasy. Like that is because he's going to be such an interesting figure within fantasy. And I don't really care about fantasy. Like, to me, I care about him about as much as I cared about Bijan Robinson. And you know how much I cared about Bijan Robinson?
You haven't seen him play.
I don't think I think just now is maybe the third time I've ever said his name.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been that interesting to me, because I just feel like it's a running back and I don't care. Like, I don't think it's going to move the meter dramatically. Like, I want to watch a guy play if he's electric with the ball in his hands, just like anybody else. But there's a lot there that I think the streams, are crossing too much a little bit. To me, I think so, because I'm just not that excited by any running back, because I've spent. I don't know. Ever since Mike Shanahan was the coach of the Broncos, yelling about, what am I doing drafting running backs? Just plug a guy in. If you're good at it, you're going to get your 1,000 yards. Don't worry about it.
Mike Shanahan. Has the show ever sounded older?
Mike Shanahan. That's right. That's right. That take goes back that far. That's in the throes of the Bills sort of running through guys that they drafted high, and Shanahan's just there plugging Tashard Choice in, and or Orlando Gary or whatever. Like, this is whoever they're plugging in. Like, yeah, it's fine. And they're like, I think I want to be like that. Not drafting Marshawn Lynch and C.J. Spiller and just Willis McGahee and all that.
Totally.
So I'm still there. Like that. It's a long time. I see what happened in the league last year, but I don't know. I'll never find out. But I just wonder how much different the Eagles season would have been if they were handing the ball to David Montgomery all year long, and that's Saquon Barkley. I don't know. Like, maybe they don't come near the Super Bowl, but I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Olandis Gary was, I believe, both a Bronco and a Bill.
Yes.
Didn't he stop by?
I think he did.
Mike Anderson?
Yes, he's in that. He's like maybe he's the last one. Because Shanahan did not last, all the way into all the names I just rattled off. But I know it started for me when he just found, like, plugging a guy in, and their running game was great.
Clinton Portis.
Like post Terrell Davis for them. Like, after that, And yeah, Portis was
he was good.
Yes,
he was a high pick.
Yeah, he was. But that's how I feel about Genty. Like I find it very hard to get excited about him. Like if I were more into fantasy like you are, although it'd be hard to be but whatever. If I were more into it, then I think I'd be more into the idea of all these guys. But I'm just I'm waiting for this to correct itself. Like for things to calm down on the running back front. We're having a resurgence here. There's all these guys this year, 3 guys maybe in the first round, like Ross is saying, and so it's become. And we'll see what happens if that happens, and all those guys come up for contracts. Are we into just a new era? The cap is so big it doesn't matter. I don't know, but I don't want to pay James Cook. James Cook looked fine, looked great even at times. I don't want to do that.
To respond to part of what you're saying, fantasy football has brought the draft to life for me. I used to not care about either at all, although I played fantasy sports in my high school days even, but used to care about neither really at all. Sort of mocked the whole draft scene. Everybody's so knowledgeable, but they all have the same list. Where's the variance? Where are the risk takers? I just didn't get it. And I think I did change on the draft before I started playing fantasy like a sicko. But it totally brings it to life for me. I mean, that is what we are obsessing about. Underdog is shut down for us now in New York, so I can't be drafting like I was last year as often. But I did 35 Underdog pre-draft drafts. And, you're just throwing darts at rookies and trying to figure out landing spots and all that stuff. And that's what the Tuesday morning podcast is about every week, especially when it's right before the draft like today. And, yeah, I mean, I have a certain interest in every one of them. Bashal Tootin, every guy all the way down the list.
Right.
Which today I asked one of our guys, Jacob Sanderson, so which team should draft running backs? Like all of them. Every team should draft a running back in this draft. They're that good. And the chance you're going to draft someone important at another position by the 6th round, is not great anyway. So everybody should take. I wonder, he or anybody else, how many of these rookies would like a common analyst say would immediately be the best running back on their team? It's more than one.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hampton could be Pittsburgh, although I kind of doubt it because they just went through Najee Harris and didn't really get far. And do they want to just replace him with another, probably a much better prospect than Harris, but still, same thing, first round, mid to late first round. Denver is kind of perfect for one of them, Hampton or Henderson. And, the Chiefs would be hilarious if they did it.
Yeah.
Because they have never really had it perfect at running back, although I don't think they'll do that. There could be 3 in the second round, depending on who you like. And I'm not grinding tape, so I would just be spewing names. But there could be a half dozen running backs in this draft or more that go right to the top. And if they're drafting them in the first round, that's of course going to happen. They're going to start. Otherwise, you're nuts.
Absolutely.
But round 2, last year was Jonathan Brooks. We had a couple guys like Corum to the Rams, Benson to the Cardinals, who were good prospects. Benson from Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
They were good prospects who went on day 2. And, Connor's age in Arizona, there was some reason to think that he would be the starter. The rookie would be the starter. And in those examples and a couple more, they barely played at all.
Right. Connor almost never came off the field.
And Kyron Williams, he might have led the league. So
right.
You had not always is the second day running back going to be important, and that can be a real puzzle. But this year, man, I think it's different this year.
I'd be stunned if the Steelers did it. Coming off of the Harris thing, like you said, and they've got Jaylen Warren almost always looked like the better back than Harris while they were on the same team. I don't know if they would trust Warren, durability wise to be a 1A type guy there. So maybe that's why, but still, I don't think you draft a guy to be a part of a partnership in the first round.
Right.
Like you're running your offense through that guy, at least in your running game, and he's playing more snaps than a timeshare if you're drafting him in the first round. I think anyway.
You would think that.
Although
that
I mean, the Lions just did this with Gibbs, and he ended up becoming a mule because of an injury. But really, the plan was to have him be a complementary piece.
And that worked.
Yeah.
So far, that's gone pretty well. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. This is WGR. The search for an NHL goal scored, I have thought in the 70s that the whole team went on the ice to celebrate the goal. I know I've seen it, but I have not found it today. So the search for now has been ended.
Right. Yeah, we had very different recollections about that. You remember it, and I don't remember it at all happening. Because we were talking earlier about the bench, the high fives at the bench being just, I don't know when that started, but it doesn't annoy me. I don't know.
I think I'm the only one that it annoys.
Yeah.
And I can't really articulate why. Just everybody does it.
Yeah.
Everybody does the same thing. I did have some fun, though, looking for a goal that I wanted to have be like that. Found some 70s highlights, Sabres and Canadiens 75 playoffs. Top 5 from 5 to 1. Top 5 interesting names on the 75 Canadiens.
Ooh.
5, Pete Mahovlich.
Henri the Pocket Rocket Richard.
You can have that. He was the captain. I'll give you 4. 4, Henri Richard. 3, Jim Roberts. Longtime Sabres assistant,
right.
NHL assistant.
How about Bob Gainey?
Yeah. 2, I'm going with Glenn Sather.
Ooh, now that I didn't know. That is interesting. I did not know he was on those Canadiens teams, or at least one of them.
We started the show with a list of 5, and now here's another list of 5. And 1 is John Van Boxmeer.
Also did not remember that.
So he's very young, and he did not play in the playoffs.
Okay.
But he did play 9 regular season games for the 75 Canadiens. He played the year before, too.
Did not know that.
What team did he go in the Hall of Fame for? As a member of? The Rockies, I would think. No, he's not in the Hall of Fame, but I was a Van Boxmeer fan. The Sabre announcers, Darling and Jenneret, all played that up.
That name was a fun name to hear on the radio.
From either guy.
Yeah.
They both had their way with it.
Yes.
And when I was in Rochester, I interviewed him once, maybe twice, and enjoyed that. Boxy.
They traded Rene Robert for him?
Maybe.
To Colorado? I think that's how they acquired him. That's 79? What I remember anyway. Yeah.
Robert, a great Leaf.
Sure.
The late, great Rene Robert.
There is that.
Next, we'll have our chat with Sal on some of Brandon Beane's comments today with the draft coming up on Thursday night. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.